Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another night of Fish on Andover. I am Jeff Plain, and if you don't recognize me, then you're at the wrong event. Guys, I want to start this with something that's sort of been at the core of my thought process for the past few days and thinking about what I want to say tonight. The great Joan Wolfe said there are 4 steps to becoming a great angler. Step 1 is catching a variety of fish, or just rather, lots of fish. As many as you can. Day or night, if you can get out on the water, you're going after fish. Next step, you're going after big fish. That's step 2. Step 3, you want to challenge yourself. You want to get different fish. Maybe going after a GT and tarpon as opposed to your striper. Step 4 is giving back to the community. And that's part of why I'm here tonight. I want to tell you all about my fisheries, about why I chose fly fishing, a little bit about my modern fly fishing experience. As Stephanie said, I never really was a fisherman before moving back to Lowell in the summer of 2014, right, Jamie? Yeah, somewhere in there. And it was through walking the city streets and noticing the canals there that I thought, there's got to be fish in there, right? Let's try something different. Let's see what there is to offer. So, whether, excuse me, getting ahead of myself. The whole point of this, or one of the points of this, is to explain that you don't need a lot of experience. You don't need to grow up doing this. You don't need a whole lot of money. The fact is, you can pick up a fly rod, and whether it's the streets of Lowell, or the backwoods of central Massachusetts, or western Mass, or going out to the coast, if you live in Massachusetts and you don't chase striper, you're not doing something right. That's another story altogether. This is just an incredible pastime, an incredible lifestyle, and I want to share with you all a little bit more about my experience. Okay, grab my little clicker here. Newfangled devices. So, why fly fishing? Of all the things, you see 3 very different stages here in this one's life. Dad, do you recognize where that first one is? I don't know that spot. No, it's beyond both of us. That's me very clearly struggling with a bait caster in that first frame. The other side, another sort of spinning rod, but not really much activity as compared to the center with my photarium there and a beautiful wild sea run brook trout of the Cape. There was something about fly fishing that, in learning about it and doing my research, that it immediately struck me as something that was different from spin fishing or bait casting or what have you, as something that required more thought, more strategy, more process. And that was really what made me say, let's give this a shot. I needed something to get me back outside. After being up in Vermont for 7 years, I was mountain biking, I was snowboarding, I was hiking, I was rock climbing, I was doing whatever I could to get myself outdoors. But moving to Lowell, the idea of getting on a bike on those city streets is not something anyone takes lightly. Getting on a mountain nowadays without a college ID is $100 a day in its own. Hiking, got to drive out to Western Mass for that too, so why not combine that with something else? Fly fishing gave me more. It gave me a thought process, and it just evolved from being my first 9-foot, 6-weight LL Bean Quest 2, $100 or whatever it was on sale at the season, floating line and going out and catching smallmouth bass and sunfish and perch and what have you, to graduating onto an 8-foot 4-weight, getting more of a feel of what the water had to offer and how to play the fish effectively. And that's where we come to Lowell. Lowell Canals. You hear the words Lowell Canals. It doesn't even sound pretty when you hear it, right? Who wants to, when you think fly fishing, why do you want to be in the middle of the city? Why do you want to be surrounded by traffic and car alarms and litter and this, that, and the other? I'll tell you why. There is incredible fishing to be had, to put it politely. Yeah, those are actual size. Some of the people in these pictures are here tonight. Thank you all for coming out. Lowell Canals, it's tough to even want more than that. As much as I'm going to tell you about other fly fishing experiences that I have, and that all sort of make up part of my journey, the Lowell Canals are where it really started. And it really is. It's right there. You can wear what you're wearing right now. I mean, you might not want to in the heat of summer, but you can go out wearing your everyday clothes. You don't need waders. You don't need boots. You don't need a boat. You need rod, line, flies. Polarized sunglasses, if you really want to get into it, bring hat, all the little accoutrements that we like to carry with us. But you can really go out there with the bare minimum and still be completely effective. The carp definitely represent the more experienced angle of Lowell angling. But like I said, there is large and smallmouth bass, yellow perch, the occasional white perch, massive sunfish. I say in Lowell we've got dinner plates, we've got buckets, and we've got urban bonefish. Dinner plates are our sunfish, and our crappie get to be healthily sized, to put it politely. The smallmouth are there in numbers, maybe not in size, but certainly in numbers. And the carp, if you know where to look and when to find them, they can be entertaining, I think is the word for it. I'm going to tell you a quick story about these guys, and we're going to proceed on to the next experience. And this really is about the one in the middle, myself there with the fireman. I had just gone out a day before with a client, and I don't know what it was, whether it was the heat of the summer or what brought it on, but that day we only found him, a little 12, 13-inch carp, which is still, on a 6-weight, that'll give you a decent tug and run you around a little bit, but not quite like what you see here. So I was upset, rather dejected, and I needed retribution. I needed revenge, as it were. So it's the end of the day, it's later afternoon, I say to my significant other, all right, Jamie, I need to go out. And this was the beauty. I could go down 4 flights of stairs from my apartment, walk out to the street, and there I am. The canals are right there. And the fact that I'm the only guy out there fishing fly, out of all you people here in this room, it's 20 minutes away. There's no reason I shouldn't be seeing some of you out there this coming spring. It is, I'm getting sidetracked. So, early evening, go out, grab my trusty 7'10" 5-weight glass. This is one of my last factory rods that I still have at the moment. I'm working on replacing them all with custom rods that I built myself. As you can see, this thing's got quite a bit of a noodle to it, to put it politely. And I came up to this spot, and I thought, there's sometimes carp in here, but I didn't see anything. So I stood around for a minute, and lo and behold, I see this fish come up, and he just goes after every little molecule, whatever, that's on the surface of the water, and then disappears back down into the depths. I think, all right, I know he's here, and how am I going to get him back out? Because right underneath my feet, there are 3 culverts that probably go half a mile off that way, all underground. So if he goes into there, I'm in trouble. And out in front of me, in the pool that you see off over here to the left, there's a submerged tree down there. So if he pulls me way down, I'm going to get wrapped up in that in trouble. So going after this thing with a 5-weight glass rod maybe isn't the smartest choice, but I didn't know what I was going to get into. I figured, what the hell. So I tie on a little bread fly, throw it out there, and it's got no weight on it, so it sits on the surface for a moment before slowly starting to sink. And on that slow sink, I just see him rock it up. And it isn't like a bass where they inhale the fly. It's more just kind of like he aggressively put his mouth around it, if that makes sense. And that was that. He was gone. And so I'm going to put this microphone down for a moment. I wouldn't advertise doing this with anything other than fiberglass, but he had this thing bent. Like so. And it took having those firemen roll by at that particular moment, seeing my rod bent down to the cork, they all just pulled over and were like, "What you got, man?" Hopped out, I was like, all right, I need one of you guys to help me land this thing. I got both my hands on the rod. My wrist is starting to get sore. And so the other crucial part of the equation is the real big net. Extends out, not one. It's a little stuck because the shaft has been bent a little bit by a heavy cart. But this goes out to 10 feet when I really want it to. And this allows me to reach down because you can see in all these pictures that we're up a ways from the canals. And there has to be an effective way to catch, land, get our quick photo, and then get these fish back in the water where they belong. The name of the game is catch and release. And this net is definitely crucial to the operation. Well worth the funds. Got that at Cabela's. I think that was $75, something like that. And that's, I don't care if it falls. It's, yeah. Excuse me for getting the microphone. Anyway, so the carp, worth coming to Lowell for in and of themselves, separate from the bass, separate from the sunfish. But the fact that you can just walk out here in your everyday clothes, fish for a few hours, stop, get a beer at Cobblestones, get some burritos at El Portro, grab a soda at the CVS, and then get right back out to fishing, baby. I mean, it is a unique experience in that. On to next. Looks like a lot of tight woods. Looks like a lot of leaves. Looks like a lot of junk in the water, right? This is what I live for. As much as I love the Lowell canals and they gave me something truly special and that I had an incredible warm water fishery in my backyard, what was I to do for the rest of the year? Because the canals are really only on from early May to late September. And then at that point, it's like someone flips a switch, and the fish are just gone. I walk town, up and down, all over, just scouting, seeing what I can see, bringing my fly rod with me, and it's usually end of September, beginning of October that they just shut off. And that may have something to do with the dam system, and an outgoing power, and the locks. It's a whole big to-do. But then there's the streams, which are a bit more forgiving in that respect. Where a lot of Massachusetts anglers, I feel like, when they're looking for trout, are going to find their way out to western Massachusetts. Going to go to your aquariums. We don't really need to name names now, do we? There's larger river systems, big trophy stalker fish that we all like to chase. And they're challenging. You got to bring your size 32s and your 8X tippet. But not here. Here, I'm usually going with a 6.5 foot, 4-piece 2-weight. This is my bread and butter. It breaks down to just about 20 inches. It's perfect for these brook trout, even for the occasional brown and rainbow. Slings a small streamer like a dream. Floating line or dual taper is usually what I'm using. But you know what else you don't see in these pictures? Is people. That's right. And I realized that by bringing that up and by showing you these spots, you might very well recognize some of these points. And I kind of hope that you do. Like I made mention in the beginning, I want to share fishing with all of you. I've been taught to believe that if you can't talk about it, why are you fishing it in the first place? If you're so worried that 1 or 5 more people are going to come in there and destroy the ecosystem, what makes you so special? And I'm not saying that to anyone in particular. I'm saying that to myself. Why do I get to fish these streams? There have been people on these waters for hundreds of years before myself. I learned about them from anglers that came before me. And anglers that come after me will learn it from me or from someone else. And I think that this community needs more of that. And yeah, it might mean some more bodies on this water, but if more people have eyes on it, if more people have eyes on their Lowell canals, maybe those watersheds get better. Maybe we start seeing bigger fish. Maybe we start seeing them manage more for quality of fish than quantity. Just a thought. The blue lines are another trip that I take people on. We're getting out into the woods, anywhere from half-hour to over an hour drive from the city, from Central Mass to Western and down to the Cape. See a picture of my dog there lying in the stream in the lower corner, getting real comfy. Didn't find any fish that day, but he was happy, so that's really what matters. But the quiet that you find, even on some of these, I'm not 30 feet from the road, but it's silent. You can hear yourself think. You can hear the babble of the stream. And while the fish you catch may be in the 5 to 7 to 9 inch range, or 10 inch or above being really something special, you're the only guy out there. These fish aren't shy. They'll take a fly left and right. It's food. It's just a beautiful place to spend time, to be outdoors, to connect with nature, to get closer to what makes this state so great. You don't need to go out to, drive all the way up to northern Maine. You don't got to drive down to Pennsylvania. We got it all right here. There's fresh water, there's cold water, there's salt water. It's brackish flies, fresh to salt, and everything in between. Some of the trout from our local waters in various stages, from across those various systems, we see the top left is actually a sea-run brown trout that I found down in Plymouth on New Year's Day a couple of years back. New Year's Day, of all days, a friend of mine had invited me to join Mr. DeSisto out at Scorton Creek for his annual fish-a-thon on New Year's Day. He bailed out, and where unfortunately I didn't know Steve that well at the time, I chickened out as well. And I went to try and do my own thing. I did some research and I did some reading around. I said, there are other systems outside of Scorton with sea-run browns. Let's see what we can see. The spot where I found this fish is, again, an urban fishing environment. It's in the middle of town. If you go there now, you won't find anything. They're pulling out a dam. It's Town Brook in Plymouth. First time that I went through this stream, I fished it top to bottom. All I found in the one pool, the same pool where I found this fish, was yellow perch. Just yellow perch after yellow perch after yellow perch, which at first I was content, catching anything on New Year's Day on a system that I'd never been to, thumbs way up. But then, to hit it on the way back up and say to myself, let's give it one more. And watch this fish just rocket out from the undercut along the side to smash this streamer and just give my 3-weight a bend like I'd never seen. It was something truly incredible. And that's a spot that anyone can go to. You don't need waders. You don't need boots. The canal or the little river just runs right there, and it's that upper section. As you get down towards the salt, there's not really any cover. There's no undercut. There's nowhere for the fish to hide. So you find them in the upper area above the road bridge. But right now, like I said, you won't find anything. They're pulling out a dam. It's all muck and misery. But we see stalker, or potentially a lake-run rainbow from a washover down at the Swift this past winter. Down in the lower corner here, we see those are the young of year. Those are little baby brook trout. And those are actually from down the Cape. I shot that with my phone. I've got it running a live feed here on the Instagram. But just put that underwater with the waterproof case, and I get this incredible quality of video. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see, but they've already got the orange in their fins. You can see their par marks clearly. You can even, on some of them, see the beginning of the vermiculation on their backs. And to be that close to this new generation of fish is just incredible. I mean, I can't think of a person alive that wouldn't love to see that. Bottom corner is my personal best brook trout, currently clocking in at 16 inches. That came from just south of the Vermont border on a small stream up that way. And then we have a fresh from the salt sea-run brook trout right there in the middle. Chromed up, probably full of little grass shrimp and mummichog and stickleback. But you see that when they come back from the salt, they lose that green coloration, right? See how prone the fish is. They get that coloration back in sometimes as short as 12 hours. And these fish aren't like salmon where they're running back and forth once a year. They are constantly in motion. It Depends on the temperature in the bay, temperature in the stream, availability of food, activity of predators, etc. There's so many factors that determine where and when these fish move. But it's certainly not like the salmon with a once-a-year move. So there's our blue line experience. Next up, the striper, Marone saxatilis. Got pictures from all around Massachusetts here. We've got the South Shore and the Cape. We've got the North Shore and Plum Island. We've got down south by, Sugar. What's that town? Right over by Rhode Island. Brain fart. Anyway, southern, thank you. Yep, right down there off the water there. The Nubble. That's it. Anybody know where the Nubble is? Lighthouse down that way. Great spot. But last year was a tough year for striped bass, but we still found some nice fish. A couple of keepers, more towards the beginning of the season than towards the later part of the season. But even when we don't find fish, we find beautiful days. When I take people out for striper, we go up and down the Massachusetts coast, wherever is convenient, generally speaking. If someone lives closer to the Cape, I'll take you to the Cape, unless that is you want to go up north, and vice versa. I'm aiming to please here. I want to take you where you haven't been before. I want to show you some new territory. I want to get you into some fish. While I can't guarantee that the fish will always be there, I'm certainly going to do my damnedest. So that middle shot down the bottom there is actually a sunset out Sandy Point all the way down the end of Plum Island. For those that don't know Plum Island, that's probably our closest striper fishing spot. Getting down there at the end of the day, if you don't know about it, tell that guy at the gate that you're going to Sandy Point. He won't charge you those $5 anymore. Drive all the way down the end, all the way down the end. It's a beautiful beach. I mean, you couldn't ask for a nicer beach head than that. And when it's low tide like that on the rise, you got to be careful that you don't get stuck out in the mud flats too far. Obviously, that's striper fishing anywhere. But there's some very nice fish up that way. And it's a great place to be able to spend time outside. The fact that we're so close to it, it's an incredible resource. There's great eats out there on the island. There's surfland for all your supplies and gear. Definitely a place I would recommend scoping out. As we can see, some happy faces of guys that have come out with me. I take kids out, I take adults out, I take anyone out that feels like coming out with me. The name of the game, like I said, is sharing something new and different. Everyone knows that there are blue line streams. Everyone knows that there are striper here. Everyone knows that there are carp in various spots all over the state. I try and take people to the different spots that maybe you don't think to go, or maybe that you've tried and haven't quite demystified. The aim is anywhere from a beginner, having never picked up a fly rod before, can get you casting, to an experienced angler that wants to hook up with some of these urban bonefish. So we'll get you into them as best we can. Like I said, there's no guarantee with fish, but we do our best. In addition to guiding, I also build custom rods. You see a variety of equipment here, everything from 3 weights to 5 weights to 10-foot 2 weights to 10 weights, fiberglass, graphite alike. It's all custom, it's all bespoke. Question?
How long have you been building?
I'll get to that. A friend of mine who's present in the room taught me how to build rods for the very first time end of August of last year. It is now close to end of February. I'm currently working on rods 17, 18, and 19. Got rods everywhere from the Pacific Northwest down to Georgia, parts of Florida, etc. The whole idea is making the rod exactly as you envision it in your brain. Nothing is preset. No stocks. Just, you tell me you want a 6.5 2-weight, but with lime green wraps all the way up and down the thing, we can do that. You want it all with black guides, we can do that. The idea is that I want to tailor my experience, whether it's guiding, tying flies, which is our next slide, or building rods, to be exactly to your taste. We see we've got some weird colorways of deceivers. That's what that client wanted. So we whipped it up for him. And he caught some beautiful stripers with it last season. We've got some tutti frutti jig head buggers up in the top right. You know, that purple and pink, a deadly color combo, especially with the jig head. We've got some cart bugs over here in the top left. Headstand style bugs. Got the hook rides, you know, higher up, doesn't snag, sits on the bottom, just waits for the carp to come along. Just like here in the lower left, those are more headstand. We've got some salmon flies. And this guy here, anybody in the room ever heard of Dick Empey? Yes? No? One? A couple. The Goldie, Deadly Empey Shiner. Fly ringing any bells? That's what that guy's based on. It's sort of my imitation of a bait fish. I tied one up here that y'all can take a look at. I've got a bunch up here in the boxes as well. I just find that the 4 colors that I work into that pattern, in addition to the weighting on the shank, which you see we've got the lighter stripe here, that's actually the belly section. It rides point up. Just an incredibly effective pattern that I truly throw at everything. Rainbows, throw it at them. Browns, you bet your bottom dollar. Brook trout, eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Carp, a little bit more selective about it, though they will take it. Both myself and other anglers in the area have used this fly and have had carp wake on the fly, where they're chasing it so aggressively that the water above them forms a wake. That's generally not behavior for a carp. But if they're hungry and something looks tasty, they'll go after it. I tie it big for striped bass in size 1/0 and 2/0. They love it. It's a great small bait fish imitation. It's just a deadly effective fly that, like I said, I throw at everything that swims. Guys, I can't thank you all enough for your time this evening, for listening to me talk, hearing a bit about my trips that I offer, about the fish that I like to catch, about the gear that I make. It's been a pleasure sharing this knowledge with you. I'd love to take some questions if you have anything at all, concerns, comments, etc. Let's hear them.
What size tippet do you use for the carp?
For the carp, tippet. Generally speaking, I'm using 16-pound fluoro. I find that to be just at the right level. The fluoro, it doesn't shock quite the way mono does, but it has that ultra-low visibility, which when you're using that thicker pound test, you really need that low visibility because these fish are spooky.
Is that straight or higher quality?
Straight. No need to complicate things. These, I won't dare say that they're trash fish, but they're intelligent enough to warrant a leader that can't be seen as well through the water column. Anything else?
And you find them at all levels of water? I always thought they were mostly on the bottom.
Carp, when I'm chasing them, we're getting them all top water.
Yeah.
We're sight fishing for these fish. No casting it out and letting the fly sit, wait, and wait.
You're looking down a lot. You're up in those bridges looking down.
Oh, you're
So
looking
you
down,
see
but
them.
more often than not, we see them from a good distance off. At least, when I try and get people out there during the height of the season, which mid-May through mid-June, we're finding them on top. We see them from a good distance off, and that allows us to make sure we get the sun angle right, that we aren't casting shadows on the water, that we can get right up on them and make as effective a first cast as you can make, because often that's all you'll have, at least, right off. Get that one, get that fish. It takes about an hour or so for them to cool back down and reorganize and reposition, etc. And like I said, for those we're using flies that look like their normal forage. Garbage. Human food. So, bread flies, Cheetos, bits of Mylar, but then, sometimes we do get creative. There's a cottonwood seed that I like to use, because we do have cottonwoods in Lowell. Ladybugs, little ladybug dry, just a little bit of red foam with some peacock curl around the hook shank, palmered up to the head. Done. Easy peasy, works like a charm. We had a question in the back.
Did you say that you were getting smallmouth and largemouth in the canals?
Yes, sir. Not quite as many largemouth as smallmouth, but lots of smallmouth. That's definitely the more abundant of the two. Best last year was 16 inches for smallmouth. Best largemouth, I think, came in at just over a foot. So, like I'm saying, bass aren't the big species in the canal. It's those carp. No question.
What about the Concord River? Do you fish there at all?
The Concord River? When we're in Lowell, we're exclusively fishing the canals. The fact is, the canals allow us to work through the majority of the city without waders, without boots, easy, just walk in. It's about, we usually do between 2 and 4 miles on a half or a full day trip. We'll either do the loop twice.
Don't we have to worry about snagging people on your backpack when you're fishing in the city?
Certainly something to be aware of, absolutely. But generally speaking, we aren't doing huge back casts when we're in the city. We're doing a lot of bow and arrow and roll casting. I guess you could call it an adapted roll cast. I brought guys in there that do micro stay, and that works really well because you don't need to have a lot of cast to deliver the fly effectively across the canal to where the fish are. So that's certainly an option. If someone comes out, by all means use your own gear. That said, I'm going to have rods for you to use ready-made, to try out, see if you like the way I build them, and who knows? Maybe you might walk away with a custom rod at the end of the day.
You see shad up in the canal?
Don't see too many shad in the canals. We see them in the Merrimack.
Most of them connect to the Merrimack.
They do connect to the Merrimack, but usually by way of what's called a wasteway. Yeah, an obstruction that they can't get back up once they go down, unless they go all the way upriver, which that's not something that they do too much. Never seen striper in the canals. I only just saw a photograph the other day of the most beat-up looking salmon I've ever seen in my life, caught in Lowell, in the canals. And blew my mind. This fish was not pretty by any definition. It had seen some stuff. But that said, I can't get enough of those carp. I'm going to pull those back up because those fish are just something else. Yeah. Yup. No, we got a few nice ones this year. My buddy Jamie down in the lower left, that was his very first carp. Look at the size of that freaking tail. Am I right?
What is it, 10 pounds, 12?
They range, the smallest, that 12-incher that I told you about, that had to be about 3 or 4. But the one that I'm holding there in the middle with the fireman is close to 30.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Fat.
Yeah.
Fat. Made me question my decisions as far as rod and tippet choice. But we got it done. Thank you, Lowell Fire Department. That was a truly lucky thing. If they weren't there just when they were, it would not have worked out. I would have had to snap that fish off and call it a day.
Do you have to have, did you say you do it by yourself? You
Um,
had to net one of those guys by yourself?
I've done it.
Yeah,
I've done it. Not that size.
It's a size.
Oh my goodness. No, it's a challenge to do it by one's own. I generally, when I'm going out for striper, I go out with a partner. I definitely recommend others go out with a partner. Someone to work the net while you're focusing on bringing the fish in close enough to land it as quick as you can to get these fish back before they're completely exhausted. Because again, the name of the game is catch and release. And as one of my friends in the room taught me, and this is just something that's stuck with me for the past couple of years now, whenever I release a fish, I utter 3 magic words. And anyone can do it, really, and I sort of ask that you might, in the hopes that it brings on something more. When we release a fish, we say, "Thank you, fish." That fish worked hard. It's been out there surviving, living every day, living a fish's life, and then we come along and give it a lip piercing. Yeah, it's barbless and it pops right out as soon as you let go of line tension. But that fish is still playing along and being very nice and allowing us to take his photograph and then post it on the internet without their consent. So I think it's the least that we can do to say thank you. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, please.
How long does it take you to build a ride?
A rod takes me about 3 weeks to a month, depending on the amount of customization, and that's more as a function of shipping time than anything else. Labor, I do it all. I'm the one putting your guides on. I'm the one finding the spine, making sure it's spaced appropriately. I keep in contact with the client through the whole process, sending you photo updates, all that jazz. You're entrusting a bit of money to me to make this thing for you. So the idea is that image that you have in your head, I want you to see it in your hands when we're done. Nothing else will be acceptable. Anybody else? Please.
How did you start fly tying?
How did I start fly tying? So, as I told you, it was the Lowell Canals that got me started fly fishing. And it's that age-old lie that I'm sure you've heard. Fly tying saves you money. Yeah. Remind me to have serious words with the person who said that first. I started with a Cabela's fly tying kit. I think it was $50. Comes with the vise, the tools, and I picked up materials to make a woolly bucket because I figured that's just where everybody starts. I maybe tied 5 flies before I said, yeah, this just ain't gonna cut it. Take this back. I'll drop a bit more money and let's get that peak rotary vise going. Let's talk the real business here. Get the serious tools. And now I don't think I want to talk about how many tying materials I have. Suffice it to say, it's too much. No, it isn't. There's no such thing as too much tying material, is there? No, it was out of a desire to create something that I couldn't find in a shop. That I wanted to have more control over the fly I was fishing. Because, you find streamers, but they're only heavy enough for certain water conditions. So you like the colorway, but you want to change up the weight a little bit. Fly tying. Does that answer it? Brilliant. Anybody else? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again so much for your time. It was wonderful speaking with you all. Thank you. Please feel free to come up and chat with me before you leave. I've got business cards.